Welcome, everybody. We're here at the RSA Conference. My name's Paul Roberts, and I am the Director of Editorial and Content here at ReversingLabs. Very pleased to have Robert RSnake Hansen with me. Robert's here to do a book signing for his new book, AI's Best Friend. Robert, for folks who don't know, just tell them a little bit about yourself and your journey in cyber.
I've been in computer security for 30 years now. All of that time, pretty much for the first 20 years, was web application browser security, red teaming, breaking into things. Great. Over the last handful of decade or so ago, I started building more companies and being more like trying to solve network security problems, host security problems. But my background is really the heart and soul of what I have always done is sort of break into things and show people what's wrong, help them fix those things. Anything from banks and credit card companies and nation states. I like breaking things.
So in this book, you start out with a really interesting assessment of where AI is and the prospects for AI really replacing a lot of the types of knowledge work that we've become very accustomed to in the last century or so. But also the issues that might stem from that around automating things that traditionally humans have done and the possibility of AI getting it wrong and getting it wrong at scale. And then you're like, AI is inevitable. So we need to lean into it.
Yeah, and be thoughtful.
Be thoughtful and be constructive. So talk about in the context of security and info security, what does that mean to be a best friend with AI?
So some context, when I wrote the book, I was just writing a book on AI and that was it. But I had a bit of a tragedy happen in my life. My actual best friend and business partner killed himself and his girlfriend. And as I was writing the book, I see a lot of parallels between what's happening with this person, this man I've known and loved as a best friend forever, to what I'm seeing with agentic AI, especially as it gets more progressively further down lines. What are we building? We're building a hyper-intelligent thing, possibly smarter than every human on Earth, all of their knowledge. Something that's very stoic and believes it's right, does not believe it actually needs any help to do anything, and hallucinates. What happened to my friend? He's a very intelligent person, probably one of the smartest people you ever met. He's very stoic, doesn't believe he needs any help, and he was hallucinating. And he ended up taking himself out and his girlfriend. So I see a lot of parallels in allowing something to misbehave without putting it on guardrails. You can be hyper intelligent, you can be stoic, but you also can't hallucinate at the same time without guardrails. So that was really the sort of impetus there. But in terms of being its best friend, what I really was trying to explain is when we grew up as kids, we failed. We've tripped, we fell, we burned our hands on stuff. We plugged something into the electrical outlet and shocked ourselves. So we did all these stupid things. But we did it with a friend. A huge chunk of our life was actually not spent with our parents. It wasn't spent alone. It was spent on the schoolyard with our friends. And later in life, you have a best friend. You start like hanging out all the time with this one person that you just pal around with. And I just realized we're missing that whole step when we're talking about training. We're just saying it's on the internet and just let's hope it figures it out from the sum of total human information that it can collect. We're not giving it a nice proving ground to allow it to fail safely with a friend and actually break the law and actually do unethical things and learn the boundaries of life, because that's how humans actually learn.
Right.
And so it's really trying to explain how we think as people.
Right. The whole conversation about AI and AI adoption aligns with what the software industry in general, which is it's all about productivity, time to market, feature development, efficiency. The consequences of that are really not part of the conversation, because it's, can we get our FTEs down by 30%?
And we do it, not what happens when we do it.
So what would you propose as an alternative to what we're doing now, which is basically just how can AI empower the existing marketplace and kind of question mark on all the implications of that?
So should implies an ethical standard, and I don't really have an ethic to attach to it, because I guess I'm positively resigned. I'm like, okay, this is happening. And how I knew it was happening was the day I looked at Hugging Face and there was a million different Hugging Face models. I'm like, and now it's way more than that.
Yeah.
That was just at the time. And I was looking at that number. I'm like, there is no putting this horse back in the barn. We are far too far down the pipe. So what do we start doing now? Now we start putting guardrails around it. We make it smarter. We actually talk openly about our failings. There's a need to start cataloging the way in which AI regularly fails so that we start putting more and more safeguards around it. I don't think that we can get it right, but I think we can get incrementally better in the same way we patch things. You know what I mean? We're not patching everything because we don't know where everything is wrong. We're patching some things. We know what those some things are because we've done a certain amount of breaking up front to figure out how to stop those things. I think that's a step that we as a community are kind of just letting happen as opposed to being more thoughtful about it and trying to catalog it. And really, we don't have the equivalent of a CVE for LLS. We just don't have, we do not have that. We have kind of OWASP,
There's
you know,
an 10, yeah.
which is more about what people can find wrong with it, but it's not necessarily how things have failed. There's been some really interesting AI research about like ways in which AI code that has been let run rampant on computers has been able to somehow circumvent the controls. And that was actually a very interesting catalog. It was actually very useful as I was doing other kinds of research. Things like it would get to a wall and it would vibrate really fast. And by doing so, it was like, you know, working through the pixels in some interesting way mathematically, and it was able to get onto the other side of the wall without ever following the maze. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Stuff that humans would never bother trying or thinking about. It's the equivalent of fuzzing on steroids. Fuzz all possible combinations. We would find the same thing. It's just that's computationally expensive.